everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'd like to introduce you. All of you probably already know Tom Stevens, the founder and CEO of Tombot. Tombot is making highly realistic robotic animals for seniors with dementia and mild cognitive impairments. And you know, what they're doing is fantastic. They already have so many passionate backers, and you know, over 7,000 people that are really standing strong, rallying behind Jennie. And they're raising capital on Start Engine right now to make Jennie the first affordable FDA regulated robotic animal in the market. So on that note, I will pass it off to Tom to introduce Tombot and himself briefly.
Thank you so much, Upasna. And hello, everyone. So grateful that you're joining us today. Happy Friday. I hope all of you are gearing up for the weekend and have plans. Here in Southern California, case counts for COVID are down, and so we're getting out a little bit more. I'm sure this will come up a little bit later about how COVID affected us, but the good news is things are, I wouldn't describe returning to normal, but returning towards normal, and lots of personally and professionally very happy, very grateful for all of that. So as Upasna said, I'm Tom Stevens, CEO and co-founder of Tombot. A little bit of, and of course, this is Jennie. I'll talk a lot about Jennie, but Jennie is a fully interactive robotic emotional support animal, and we anticipate her being the first to be both FDA regulated and affordable. A little bit about my background is I've been in the high-tech world for about 35 years. My two Tombot co-founders and I built a prior startup into one of the world's largest litigation automation companies. We were successfully acquired in 2011, which gave me the freedom to think about other things. Unfortunately, that same year, my mother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's dementia, and I had to take away her dog for safety reasons. I started looking around for substitutes for live animal companions. I didn't find anything that she liked or would respond to. So I started wondering if technology might play a role. That launched me on a multi-year research and education journey, which culminated in a master's degree at Stanford. And along the way, I learned that my mom's story isn't unique, that there are millions of seniors here in the United States, tens of millions internationally, that cannot safely or practically care for a live animal due to a health adversity, and therefore miss out on the many mental and physical health benefits associated with the human-animal bond. And we launched Tombot in 2017 to help those people. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through a few slides with you just to give you the basic premise of Tombot, a little bit of the science behind what we're doing, and kind of get everybody grounded with the same information, and then we'll open it up to questions. Talk about it again at the end of the slides. We are a first mover in where our ambitions are, but it's a very, very large potential marketplace. We'll talk a little bit about the numbers there, but it's in the millions of people and billions of dollars potential. The team has a lot of experience. As mentioned, I've worked with my partner Hank for 30 years and my other partner Jesse for about 25. And we have the experience of building companies from scratch into very large, high-performing organizations. We have a lot of traction. We're actually now over 8,000 pre-order and waitlist customers, and that includes over 500 organizations such as assisted living, skilled nursing, and board and care facilities. We are conservatively estimating this to be about 12,000 to 15,000 robots. Since we're not limiting or not severely limiting how many robots people can order right away, we do expect to average more than one per customer. And we're raising money. We'll talk about this as well. We've raised about $4 million to date, but we need another 5 to get us all the way to first customer shipments. We'll talk about how that money is to be spent. but we're a robotics company. We do take a lot of capital to bring a product to market, but with this and our talented teams and outsourced contracting organizations, we're confident we'll be able to bring Jennie to all 8,000 of these people that have pre-ordered. So this is a picture of my mom, not a happy face on her, but it's one that we have together. I wasn't thinking at the time, I should have thought about getting more photos with both her and me and them holding up one of our prototypes. But this is one of our early prototypes, and she absolutely loved it. I'll be happy to share an anecdote with you about a trip that she made to a hospital after she broke her leg, but I'll wait to do that a little bit later. So our go-to-market customer is a senior with dementia. Seniors with dementia suffer from something called behavioral and psychological symptoms of dementia, or BPSD symptoms. Those include loneliness, anxiety, frustration. In my mother's case, hallucinations and violent anger. To manage these symptoms, the go-to treatment are psychotropic medications. Psychotropics include antidepressants, anti-anxiety, and antipsychotic medications. And not only do these medications turn seniors into zombies, they carry grave health risks associated with them, particularly from the antipsychotics, which leaves doctors with a terrible choice. Excuse me. Either don't medicate these seniors and risk having them out of compliance with their day-to-day care needs, or medicate them and risk killing them. Additionally, over 80% of nursing home residents suffer from high-impact chronic pain, and the go-to medication there are opioids. And if you've been reading the papers at all for the last 10 to 15 years, you know that opioids are particularly problematic, especially when dealing with chronic pain. Doctors are urgently looking for alternatives to these two classes of medications and exploring non-pharmacological alternatives such as robotic animals. This is a very well-researched area. There are dozens of peer-reviewed studies that have been done to date, beginning back in the 1980s, actually. And what they show is that where a senior with dementia can form a robust emotional attachment to an object, traditionally human baby dolls or stuffed animals, that senior gets a great deal of relief from their behavioral and psychological symptoms and a corresponding reduction in need for the psychotropic medications. The problem is very few seniors, including my mother, are able to form the necessary emotional attachment to the traditional object. Part of the problem is that they don't identify with these toy-like objects as being for them. My mother never walked down the toy aisle at Target shopping for herself. And research on robotic animals, however, show they significantly outperform the traditional objects in terms of emotional attachment and therapeutic benefit, and have the added benefit of reducing pain and the need for pain medications. The problem there is the existing advanced technology is prohibitively expensive. In the lower right-hand corner of your screen is an excellent robot out of Japan called Paro, P-A-R-O. It was developed in the 90s. It's been shipping since the early 2000s, but it costs over $6,000. Most senior care facilities can't afford one, let alone the individuals who need one for themselves in order to form that emotional bond. So we've done multiple rounds of customer studies with hundreds of seniors with dementia. And what we've learned is that they have a very strong preference for realism. First of all, objects with which they're familiar, so dogs and cats as opposed to seals or abstract items. But secondly, the more realistic, the better. Realism in terms of appearance, realism in terms of texture, but most importantly, realism in terms of behaviors. Being a bunch of tech people behind the founding of Tombot, we didn't know how to do that. So we reached out to the animatronics community in Hollywood and teamed up with Jim Henson's Creature Shop to do all of our artistic design. And with their help, we're building what we believe to be is the world's most realistic robotic animal that is scientifically designed to promote emotional attachment and yet be available at a price most people can afford, even without insurance reimbursements. So a little bit about what's inside Jennie. First of all, when you think about a robot, they're essentially computers that can move. And in this case, Jennie's computer is very much like the computers in a smartphone. So similar processor, similar battery, similar memory, similar battery type and battery life. She's designed to last all day on a single charge and then be plug-in rechargeable overnight. If she's used less frequently, she can last longer. If she's used more frequently, she may not last quite as long, but our goal is a full day's worth of battery power. She's software upgradable. So just like your smartphone, there will be updates that we produce that will be available to not only improve the technical workings of the robot, but also to improve and enhance the behaviors that she's capable of doing. All of those will be available through a smartphone app. The smartphone app will be the only way that people can connect to the robot. We decided with this first version that they will not be Wi-Fi or cellular connection. We did that for a couple of reasons. We did that for cost savings, but we also did that for data security. We didn't want anybody being able to access the robots remotely and then potentially do harmful things with them. So the only way to connect to the robot is with some kind of smartphone or smart tablet device and through Bluetooth connection. So it's a very local connection, pretty much have to be in the same room in order for that connection to succeed. But once it succeeds, you're able to do updates, do a number of initial configuration settings, which I'll talk about. And this is also where we'll report information that the robot is gathering to help the caregiver. We anticipate her being a Class 2 neurological therapeutic feedback device, which according to the FDA is a 510(k) exempt. What all that means is that we do not have to prove that she is safe or effective before we can begin shipping the product. We can go to market with simply filing the paperwork with the FDA. In terms of her sensors, she's covered with sensors. She can feel how and where she's being touched. She can tell the difference between a simple touch, a slow caress, a vigorous pet, and being held. With the smartphone, users can name the robot, and then once named, the robot will only respond to that given name. Now, if nobody has smartphones or they choose not to do those initial configuration settings, the robot will work correctly out of the box, just will need to be charged and recharged, but they'll all come standard with the name Jennie. Jennie, do you want a treat? Oh, of course, she's going to be shy. Jennie, want a treat? Don't want a treat today. She's being gun shy. Okay, so this is the issue with prototypes. Not everything works perfectly. So one of the major changes that we're making between the robot, the prototype robot, and the production version is adding noise cancellation and better quality microphones, so that we can reduce extraneous noise and also be able to understand commands better. Okay, now you're being responsive. She can also feel herself being moved. One of the questions that we received before this webinar is, can she be removed from the bed? She's always seen in the bed. Yes, absolutely. My mom carried her prototype robot around like a football. In terms of her size and weight, the production version will be about 18 inches from tip of nose to the base of tail, and she'll weigh about 5 pounds. And you might be able to tell the bottom of her is flat. And what that does is that distributes the weight across a wide area. So she's designed, even at 5 pounds, to be very lightweight on somebody's lap, so she can sit there for a great length of time. And we have a few other sensors and a few that we're not yet talking about that will be included with the robot, allow her to understand what's happening in her environment and then respond just like a real dog might. So it's a very large marketplace, as I mentioned. There are over 16 million seniors with dementia or pre-dementia mild cognitive impairment in the US alone, close to 100 million worldwide. And this is increasing quite rapidly. The number one risk factor for Alzheimer's, which is the leading cause of dementia, is age. Yes, it hits women more than it hits men, but even with men, as we age, we're more likely to develop Alzheimer's. And so as the average age of the planet increases, we're going to continue to see an increase in the occurrences of dementia. And unfortunately, there are no treatments on the horizon that look to be effective. There was one that was recently approved by the FDA, but unfortunately very controversial and not clear at all that will be effective to any extent. So very large marketplace, multi-billion-dollar opportunity. But that's only the beginning. Despite 100% of our marketing being on behalf of seniors with dementia, about 30% of our pre-order and waitlist customers have come in for other use indications, which include adults with anxiety, major depressive disorder, PTSD, chemical dependency, as well as children with autism and other special needs. We haven't formally studied these other markets yet to know if this version of our product is going to be the right one. This is our minimum viable product, but we will develop additional products, potentially with more advanced technology, to try to expand our penetration of other medical circumstances. We have a two-pronged business model. We'll sell both directly to the family members of the seniors with dementia, but we'll also sell to them through organizations such as skilled nursing, adult daycare, assisted living, and so forth. That's here in the United States. We have not developed our international distribution strategies. It will likely to be similar, but we'll need to structure those in such a way that we're ensuring that the support that's required, both user support and technical support, is provided through any of those international distribution strategies. We are not the first product in this space. As I mentioned, Paro, the robotic seal, pretty much invented this space in 2003. But as you can see from this matrix, we'll be the most feature-rich product in our class. And at $449, we're less than 1/10 the price of Paro. As I mentioned, the leadership team has been together quite a while. Hank, our Chief Technology Officer, is a systems person, has a tremendous amount of experience in computer systems, in software, in data, but also in consumer electronics manufacturing and robotics. Jesse, who is Hank's son, also has a tremendous amount of experience in systems and data. But Jesse is the get stuff done guy in our company. He has a knack for managing workflows and accurately forecasting things and executing. And so as our Chief Operating Officer, really the ideal person for doing that. And then my background, once again, is I'm on the business side. I'm the one who gets to talk to you about all of this. And then Hank and Jesse have to figure out what all my promises mean and figure out how to get all that done. So I mentioned we've raised about $4 million to date. The money that we have, quite a bit of that money remaining, plus the additional $5 million will be used in the following ways. Right now, we're making additional engineering hires. We have an offer outstanding with a really terrific looking mechanical engineering candidate that looks very promising. We'll be starting what's called production engineering, which will result in our alpha test units next month. We went back to market to review the engineering companies that are available for this, and we are on final proposal now and hoping to make a selection here in the next week to get that underway. We'll begin Servo lifetime testing just after we get the production engineering started. The key here is for making sure that the robot or the servo motors that allow Jennie to move, and Jennie here actually has 16 of them inside her. The production version will have fewer, but still highly dependent on these servo motors functioning. So we want to make sure that that the ones that we choose ultimately for supply into our robots are going to perform over time the way they do initially. We'll ultimately then select our contract manufacturer. I'm sure there are lots of questions around that. And then alpha beta testing and first customer shipments are in 24 months. Now, if we can beat this date, we absolutely will try to do so. But what's most important is the first products off the line meet not only our expectations, but also our customers' expectations. So we'll be rolling these out slowly. But once we're confident that we're hitting our marks, we'll aggressively accelerate our production to meet the to clear out our backlog and then ultimately meet future demand. And then later in 2023, we'll raise another large tranche of money for our Series A to scale our business. So just in summary, we're raising $5 million. So we're raising money on Start Engine, but we're also accepting money from large investors directly. So from venture capital, high net worth individuals. We closed a very large family office in April, which allowed us to hit a certain fundraising milestone. And we're currently offering at 14.5 million. But here's our plan for our fundraising. So if someone walked in with $5 million, we would accept it today at 14.5. Since that hasn't happened yet, we're piecing our round together in smaller increments. Some of you have invested $250 as our minimum. Thank you so much for doing that. But also people are coming in at $100, $200, $300,000 or more. But we'll end up piecing this together. And if we get to 1.5 million, we will pause and then we'll raise our valuation. That'll be sufficient money to get us to alpha, which is a major milestone. And through the maturing of the business, that will increase our value and allow us to prevent our existing investors from getting too much dilution of their investment as we raise money. And as I mentioned before, we're close to $4 million worth of total money raising, including the approximately $250,000 that we have already committed on Start Engine. So in summary, very high gross profit area in which we're working. We're hoping for 50% gross margins when we reach scale. Scale for us is 10,000 units per month and a multi-billion-dollar marketplace. We have institutional backers. Our lead institutional backer is Wavemaker 360 Health. They're our first outside board member. And then the family office that I mentioned is our second outside board member. We'll be making formal announcements about our board elections here in the coming week or two. We filed patent applications already. We've already been awarded a design patent, so no one will be able to make a robot that looks like this. And we're working from the outside in strategically on our IP filings. And so we knew that everybody would be able to see the robot, so we protected her design first. We have filed a patent application in both the US PTO and the international PCT on her software control systems and behaviors. The next are likely to be her mechanical design. We're doing some very clever things that give us the realistic movement. But we also have IP potentially around the servo motors, her electrical engineering, and the fur forthcoming. So some cool things there. We have product market fit. Product market fit means that we have evidence that people love what we're doing. In addition to our very large customer studies, we have the very large number of pre-order and waitlist customers. And we also have institutional research partners. We're not talking publicly about that yet, but these are big name companies that are helping us on this journey. And we hope for all of you who are still sitting on the sideline and wondering whether you should invest, we hope you will enjoy us, or join us rather, and help us bring robots to those desperately in need. And Fazla, let's open it up for questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom. That was a fantastic presentation. And I'm sure everyone has a lot of questions. There are already a lot of questions in the chat, actually. So let's just get started with Kenneth, who left us a question a few minutes ago. while you were presenting. He asks, curious when we can actually have a Jennie in hand, which you sort of addressed already in your presentation. My brother is in an NH and would greatly benefit from such interaction with the robot. It would be nice to have a concrete timeline.
Yeah, so our timeline is pretty concrete now. We've been delayed for both COVID and for fundraising purposes, but with the major milestone that we hit in April, we are on a good track now for shipping in mid-2023. And Kenneth, I'd love to be able to get a robot for you earlier. I'm guessing at NH's nursing home. Hopefully he can hang in there for a couple of years. We will be doing beta testing next year. And so for people that are capable of being beta test candidates, please do contact us, because we want to do as rigorous a beta testing process as we can. But we are looking to be on track for July of 2023. And as I mentioned at the outset, if we can beat that time estimate, we absolutely will.
Fantastic. On that note, Kenneth also has a follow-up question. He asks, what is the ROI for investing in your company?
So yeah, it's a great question. Because we're accepting, so there's a bunch of information to share there. First of all, I am not only the CEO of Tombot, but I'm the chairman of our board of directors. And as a member of our board of directors, we have a fiduciary responsibility to our investors to deliver a return for them, to manage the company properly and deliver a return. And we do take that very seriously. Even though we're a social impact play and a mission-based company, because we're accepting investment from outside investors, we are focused on delivering a return on that. We are a for-profit company, not a nonprofit company, and we do expect to deliver a return. It is our goal, based upon 2025 results, to deliver over $1 billion in value in the company. So that's basically a 100-fold increase over where we are today. And if we're able to achieve that, we plan on moving forward with some kind of liquidity event, either going public or doing a private equity type of play, or potentially even being acquired. It's still a few years off, but that is our goal, is to build our enterprise value to over $1 billion. And we can do that with seniors with dementia and our first product alone. So any additional products that we bring out and any other customer segments that we're able to penetrate will only expand upon the value of our company.
Fantastic, thank you. So Tony, hope that answers your question as well. Tony Perota left a very similar question in the Q&A about the expected path to monetization for investors. So I think, Tom, you killed two birds with one stone with your answer. If there's anything you want to add to that.
Actually, there is. So there is one option for liquidity that I did not mention. Liquidity means getting your money back. We are raising money on Start Engine. And one of the reasons that we chose Start Engine is they have a first of its kind trading platform for stock called Secondary. After a minimum holding time, and as long as we're not raising money at that same time, investors will be able to trade stock, buy and sell stock on Tombot with other investors on the Start Engine Secondary platform. Now, we're still learning about that, and there's a lot to learn still. We don't have exact timing on it, but there's the potential, if you needed to sell your stock at some point, there's the potential to find a buyer for it through the Start Engine Secondary platform. So it's a little bit like an over-the-counter trading platform, where there's smaller stocks, smaller companies, and fewer buyers and sellers of stock, but there is the potential to do some trading there.
Awesome, thank you. Tony, hope that answers your question. Moving on, we have Nancy Mack that asks, how can I become a beta tester?
So Nancy, the best thing, if you would, is go to our website, which is tombot.com, and send a message through us. I forget it, just contact us or something like that. But anyway, it comes into our mailbox at hello@tombot.com, and let us know that you're interested in being a beta tester, and we'll put you on the list. We'll be working later this year on developing our criteria for being a beta tester. This isn't, hey, I want a product and I'm really going to like it, and I'll tell you how much I like it. There's actually going to be a fairly rigorous testing curriculum that we'll require. And so we're going to want to make sure anybody who is a beta tester is both capable and willing to provide us that feedback. It's essential that if we can break it, we do so during beta testing so that we can fix those issues before we're shipping live units to customers in 2023. So anybody else who's interested in being a beta tester, please do contact us through our website. We will put you on our list, and once we have developed that testing criteria, we'll reach out to you and interview you for that. And if it makes sense, we'd be thrilled to include you among our beta testers.
Fantastic. Thank you. Catherine Brooks is asking, with future versions requiring monthly recurring subscription fees, are you concerned about how this additional cost will affect your senior customers or others with limited income?
So excellent question. So one of the so let me give you the full background on this and help you understand why we're where we are today. We knew this going in. We knew that seniors with dementia and the families who take care of these seniors with dementia, many of whom have very limited income. They're either fixed income, Social Security, or maybe they have a little bit of from a retirement income, but buying a many thousands of dollar dog was not going to be affordable. So our part of moving forward with Tombot at all was testing to make sure that we could bring out a product that seniors with dementia loved at a price that would be affordable for most everyone, even without insurance reimbursements. And that is Jennie. So Jennie's what we call our minimum viable product, meaning that we've stripped out absolutely everything that didn't have, that wasn't absolutely essential to getting seniors to form that emotional bond. And we're able to deliver the health benefit with this version, and we're able to sell it for $449. However, there are other customer segments that will potentially be more demanding because they're cognitively intact, because they just have higher expectations of a companion robotic animal. And for those people, we will more than likely develop more advanced robots and have monthly subscription prices associated with that.
Great. And we have Connie Haydu that also put a question in the chat right now, and she's asking, are your institutional research partners and silent investors from only the dementia market or also from related markets? Also, your pre-sale orders are total units of Jennie or possible clients. Example, a care facility.
Let me ask you your last question first. Answer your last question first, rather. We are not asking people how many robots they're planning to order, just putting their name in a list for a wait list. And then when it's time for them to place their order, they'll have a choice of placing an order for one robot or potentially more than one robot. We'll probably cap that at maybe 10 robots so that we don't have people high up in the list hoarding the robots or even reselling the robots for a markup. We don't want to create a black market or secondary market for our robots. But the numbers that I talked about, the over 8,000, that's individual customer counts, including the organizations such as the assisted living. So we do expect some of those organizations to have multi-robot opening orders, and that's why we're forecasting this to be well more than 8,000 robots that are actually in our backlog today. As we get closer to shipping, we will ask people to convert from our wait list to a prepaid pre-order. That will reduce our list somewhat because people won't want to prepay their order. But it will also give people an opportunity who are interested in it to pay for their robots and get them sooner. At that point, we'll prompt people to order the number of robots that they wish, and we'll have accurate counts for our robot backlog at that time. We didn't feel comfortable asking people for money upfront. We felt, particularly for seniors, that it would be unethical for us to ask for money 2 years or 3 years in advance of us being able to provide that robot. So we only asked them to put their name on a wait list, and as a reward for joining the wait list, they'll be eligible to get a robot at a discounted level. Right now it's at $399. We're actually going to be raising that price here shortly because we have so many on our wait list. But for right now, people can still join at $399. And then once again, they'll be prompted to pay that $399 per robot as we get very close to first customer shipments. And then the first question, I'm going to answer it a little bit vaguely about our institutional research partners, but the answer is yes. Our clinical study partners are not just for seniors with dementia, they're for other segments as well. And very, very, very exciting. These are household names that are our research partners. So the patient populations that we're looking at, because we think of these as patients, not customers necessarily, but the patient populations that we're looking at, the problems that they're suffering, the outcomes that we're looking to achieve in these studies are all very exciting and will be groundbreaking from a peer-reviewed science standpoint.
Great, thank you. So we also have a few questions about Jennie herself. So an anonymous attendee asks, just curious how you chose the name Jennie for your project.
So that's a great question. Funny story about that too. So we, as I mentioned at the outset, we partnered with Jim Henson Creature Shop to do all of our artistic design, and we, together with them, named the robot. So this is our 5th generation robot. We alternated genders. We're very old school in this regard. We with binary gender. So she's our 5th generation. The 4th generation robot was Waldo. So that was a boy robot. That was Waldo. And then Jennie was just the production manager at Jim Henson Creature Shop suggested that. I didn't really know too much about the name because she actually was the one who suggested the name and suggested the spelling of the name, Jennie. Turns out that Jennie is not short for Jennifer. Jenny here in the US is a shortening of Jennifer, but Jennie is not. Jennie is a Scottish name. It's a Scottish formal name. It's been around for a very long time. And actually one of our major institutional customers had a daughter named Jennie, who said to her dad, who was the chief science officer there, she said, well, finally somebody spells it correctly, because she was named after the Scottish name. So that's the lineage for this. There is a good backstory. She even though the breed is from Labrador, she has a Scottish name. I'm not sure where Waldo is from. Maybe that's a British name. But at any rate, the good news is everybody can name the robot whatever you'd like, and then it will only respond to whatever name you choose to give it.
Great. That's a fun little backstory for sure. We also have another question that is from an anonymous attendee that asks, how plush is the fur on Jennie's body?
Critically important issue. So a lot of the medical benefit that the user receives is from touch, it's from tactile. And so not only is her fur incredibly soft, so we work with Jim Henson, Jim Henson's Creature Shop. By the way, if anybody doesn't know who Jim Henson's Creature Shop is, please do a Google search for them. They're the people behind Muppets, Sesame Street, Dark Crystal, and they also did all of the artistic design for the movie Cats and Dogs, which is a 2001 movie, did a bunch of hyper-realistic animatronic props for that movie. Well, we were working with them in testing fur. We knew that the tactile characteristics of the fur were going to be critically important. Many seniors with dementia get quilts or other things that are fidget or very soft blankets that they're constantly feeling and needing. We wanted the same to be there, not only to encourage interaction with the robot, but also to give some of that pleasure back to the user. We tested a lot of fur. I didn't realize that that I have a thing for fur. So I had the great opportunity of being participative in selecting which fur that we ultimately went with. So this fur, the fur you'll find out is extremely plush, very, very soft and nice to touch. But even more importantly, when you touch the fur, you're not feeling a hard plastic toy underneath the fur. She is padded, so she feels like you're touching flesh. So it's squishy to touch. I mean, it's firm, so you don't feel like you're a stuffed animal. You're going to push your finger all the way through her. There is an interior structure that protects her mechanicals from something penetrating in. But it feels like flesh, much like you're touching your shoulder. That feels like flesh. And so that was important as well. So not only getting the texture of the fur right, but also getting the texture of the padding right underneath the fur, so that it was really pleasant to touch. One other thing on the fur, many fur types are heat conducting, meaning that they actually feel cold to the touch because they're removing heat from your skin. One way to test this is touch something that's metal, and then touch something that's maybe wood. And you'll have an obvious temperature difference, perceived temperature difference when you touch those things, even though both of those objects are more than likely at the same exact temperature, room temperature. Well, fur is the same way. Some fur is cold to the touch because it's heat conducting, and others are not. So this is non-heat conducting, antimicrobial fur that feels warm to the touch even when she's not powered on. But when she's powered on, you also get heat radiating out from the motors, because the motors give off heat. And so it feels like she's a living animal in terms of the heat sensation you get.
Great, great. And does the collar have a function, or is it just cosmetic?
Purely cosmetic. And it's one of the areas that people can accessorize the dog. We do plan on offering some accessories, proprietary accessories in the future. However, she's a standard sized dog, and standard sized collars for dogs of her breed and age will work just fine. So will dog sweaters, so will dog beds and dog strollers. All of those typical doggy accessories will work with Jennie.
Awesome. Another attendee asks a question on the software. Will the user be able to set a sensitivity level for the dog? Some patients may want a more responsive and needy dog, while others may prefer a more passive companion.
Exactly. So one of this actually came out of a conversation that two different conversations that we had. One with a person with canine phobias. And since that time, we've studied canine phobia quite a bit. And this woman who suffers from very severe canine phobias told us that the barking behavior and rapid movements trigger her fear response. And so in the setup, we'll be able to either dampen those behaviors or eliminate them altogether. That will be up to you. And so in that respect, we'll be able to turn on and turn off behaviors. But there are also situations where seniors with dementia, particularly late stage dementia, can't easily interact with the robot. Even touching the robot, they need to have their hand placed on top of it, and they may not move much. And the robot, if there's nothing going on, she'll ultimately go to sleep. And so one of the things that we'll give the ability to do is to make her more reactive to input, so that she's more vibrant and more alert, more active. And conversely, that she's quieter, calmer, and so that she's not disturbing people. We don't know exactly all of those configuration settings and how they'll be implemented. A lot of that will be determined through our beta testing to see what's working well and what's not. But this is a good example of software updates that'll be important to get, because we'll be learning along with you as to what works well, and we'll be making changes as to how the settings should be made and all the elements that can be affected by those setting changes. Yeah.
Do you plan to develop a dog that can walk? That's another question we just got.
This was a very important design consideration for Jennie. Being a bunch of techies, wouldn't it be cool for the dog to walk or at least stand up and roll over? And we actually had early prototypes that could do that. Anything on the ground is an extreme tripping hazard for a senior with dementia. So she is designed to never be on the ground. She's designed to lay comfortably on somebody's lap or a table or chair nearby, someplace where they can remain in close physical contact, either arm's reach or voice reach, somewhere where they're in close proximity to the robot. We have been told by other customer segments that a walking robot would be desirable. That's much harder to do and it's much more expensive. We have those kinds of ideas, but there's nothing definitive on our roadmap just yet.
Great. And Dexter Hill asks if you have any info on a Tomcat coming soon.
So we're trying not to talk too much about future items here, but as you can imagine, not everybody wants the same thing. So the key here is to provide seniors with something with which they'll form an emotional attachment. And choosing between a cat and a dog, first of all, there are more dogs in America more households with dogs than there are households with cats. There are actually more cats. Turns out statistically that cat lady stereotype is true. If you have a cat, you're more likely to have a second cat than if you have a dog, your likelihood of having a second dog. But the other part was that in our interviews, it was about 70-30, about 70% preferred a dog, 30% preferred a cat. But what was really clear is if you're a dog person, you want a dog. And if you're a cat person, you want a cat. Not that many people were indifferent to saying dog, cat, it doesn't matter to me. Pretty much if they were cat people, they wanted a cat. So you can imagine statistically that there would be value in us providing a cat at some point.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, another attendee asks, are you aware of any product liability risks?
So it's like any good company, we have lawyers. We talk to those lawyers all the time. There will be product liability risk because it's a physical product. People can interact with it. And so having product liability insurance, having good lawyers, develop user agreement licensing and disclaimers and safety notices and all that stuff is critical from a risk management standpoint. But even before that is designing the product to be just as safe as possible.
Hope that answers your question, anonymous attendee. Okay, great. And then we will be wrapping shortly. We have two final questions. And then I see David Haskey still has his hand raised. He's had his hand raised from the very beginning. So I wonder if it's just, a technical mistake or, okay, there, I think he just lowered his hand. So never mind, looks like it was just a technical thing. So Damaris Morse asks, what inspired you to create Jennie?
Yeah, thank you, Damaris. So I did not have this idea. This was not something I was sitting around in my spare time thinking, hey, a robotic animal would be cool. But rather, it was my mom. My mom, after I'll give you since we have a few minutes, I'll give you this slightly longer story and I'll share the anecdote with you that I talked about at the outset. So my mom, after she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's dementia, was unable to take care of herself and stopped being able to take care of her dog. And her dog was a 2-year-old golden doodle, big boisterous dog that not only created a safety risk for her in knocking her over, but also a safety risk for her caregiver. My mom was very unhappy that we moved a caregiver in to take care of her. And somehow she managed to train her 2-year-old golden doodle to be aggressive towards that caregiver. Fortunately, we had close family friends that wanted the dog, and the dog still has a lovely home with that family. But my mom was devastated. Every day it was, where's my dog? Why can't I have my dog? When am I getting my dog back? It's all she talked about. Until years later, I started working on robots. And then she couldn't remember what she had for breakfast in a given day, but she remembered I was working on robots for her, and that's what she wanted to talk about. She would say, Tom, do you have another robot for me? I said, no, Mom, keep your current robot. We're still working on the new ones. In 2018, my mom fell and broke her femur, broke her big leg bone, her thigh bone, just above her prosthetic knee. She had a knee replacement, so really bad break. Really painful. We went into the emergency room and then ultimately admitted into the hospital. My mom would scream in terror whenever a medical professional entered her room, because she was sure that medical professional was there to help her worse, or hurt her worse. It got so bad that they had to resort to physical restraints around the clock to not only keep my mom in bed, but to get anywhere near her, because my mom would hit them when they get near them. That went on for a couple of days. And then I brought her prototype robot in from home. And she hugged it very closely to her chest, and she would say, Bob. She named her prototype robot Bob. Bob is helping me relax. And she was still in pain. She was still anxious. But from that point forward, she was medically compliant. And this is a critical issue, because it shows not only the impact anecdotally here, but also the potential usages for our robot. It's not just for seniors in dementia, but it's also for people in other seniors in nursing homes rather with dementia, but it's also potentially for other applications. And my mom passed away just before Jennie was available, but she tested all of our earlier ones and was absolutely critical in helping us understand sort of day in, day out, how somebody would use and interact with a robot. Hugely informed the features of Jennie, not only in the robot, but also in the smartphone app.
That's a beautiful story, Tom. Thanks for sharing. Great. And, finally, Damaris, and let me combine the last two questions into one. So, when will the recorded webcast be available on the website so that we can refer others that may have an interest in investing in Tombot? And okay, I think we just got another comment in the question box from Sue, but let's address Tony's question first. So regarding the webinar, yes, it will be available on Tombot's website. Under their blog page. It'll also be on their YouTube channel, all their social media pages, as well as on their Start Engine campaign under the updates section of their campaign. So it'll be available and distributed across all their channels early next week. So definitely keep an eye out for it. And Tom, if you have anything to add to that.
No, I think the way we're going to get across this finish line is with people like you, people that understand our value proposition. Sue, thank you for your comment. And because you can relate to it personally, or perhaps you can relate to it professionally. We've had quite a few doctors, nurses, professional caregivers who have invested in the company because they understand what it is that we're doing. This isn't a get-rich-quick thing. This is a mission-based company to help people to have real measurable problems with a quantifiable benefit. We can reduce behavioral and psychological symptoms. We can reduce the need for psychotropic and opioid medications. So it's a serious company with a serious mission. And you can help us get across this finish line by not only investing yourself, but also telling people about this. Please spread the word. It's very challenging to raise money before we ship from traditional Silicon Valley investors because there's a lot of risk that we still have to overcome. But on the other hand, when we get there, we'll have a relatively clear playing field. We'll be the only product of our kind in our price range, and we'll be fulfilling orders just as quickly as we can. So from a financial return standpoint, there's a lot of potential here, but from a doing good standpoint, there's even more. And so please join us, and please tell your friends. Any way that you can help spread the word would be absolutely wonderful for us. So thank you in advance.
Fantastic. Yes, and the link to the Start Engine campaign is in the chat. So, you know, if you liked what you heard today, please go invest, leave your questions in the comments section, and like Tom said, spread the word to as many friends and family as you can, and help support this amazing mission in coming to life. And we will be having another webinar in the next few weeks. So if you have any further questions, you can save them for the next one. And on that note, that is a wrap. So have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you so much for joining and participating. And we hope to see you at the next webinar as well.
Jenny, want a treat? Oh, now you do. Oh. She wants a treat at the end of the program. She realizes there's a lot of work still ahead of her. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you. Bye.